Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Brent, and in today's video we're going to go ahead and cover two plugins to add dungeons to your Minecraft 1.17.1 worlds. I went ahead and downloaded roughly 5 to 10 different plugins for dungeons and checked which ones worked on 1.17.1. Now I went ahead and ended up with two of these, so I do want to go ahead and share these ones with you in case you're wanting to add some dungeons to your Minecraft SMP. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Of course, if you are brand new to the channel, have not yet subscribed, go down below, hit the red button to subscribe, make it gray, hit the bell to be notified every time I release a brand new video. And of course, give this video a thumbs up, make it blue, and let's go ahead and get into number one. Now, number one here, let's go ahead and jump over, is called Catacombs. Now, this one is designed for 1.13, 14, and 15. Again, I went out and downloaded roughly 5 to 10 different dungeon plugins, tried them out on 1.17.1, and many of them didn't work. 2 of them did work. Catacombs is the first one that had worked and tested out. Now, every command that I've tested so far does work. This one, you're able to generate yourself a dungeon. It's called Catacombs. That is pretty cool. You can abbreviate to /cat. First, you have to plan out your dungeon. You do a plan. You give your plan a dungeon name, you give it a depth of say 50 blocks, 100 blocks, 150 blocks, and you give it a radius of how large you want your dungeon to be. The hut portion, you have to make sure that wherever you're standing, there's going to be about a 10 by 10 area around you that's going to get destroyed, and the entrance to the dungeon is going to be placed around you. So you also have to kind of make sure that there's, enough room for stairs, levels. So you want to make your level design large enough so a dungeon the size of 20 may not even work. So you want to make sure that you're checking down below. That way it's not destroying any sort of features around and below you. Also, the way that this one works is you go ahead and check out on the map wherever you want to go ahead and build out your dungeon. You go ahead and plan out your dungeon. So you plan out your dungeon up at the top by /plan, dungeon name, the depth, and the radius. If you've made your decision here, or if you've changed your mind, you can unplan it. Or if you've decided to go ahead and go through with the plan, you can go ahead and build out your dungeon plan. You can also use scattered commands. This allows you to drop a dungeon at a random location between how many blocks away. So if you set this to a final distance of 1,000, somewhere within right where you're at and 1,000 blocks out, that dungeon will be automatically spawned out in the open. You can also give your dungeon a reset timer. So how often is that dungeon going to be resetting inside of it? So many of these dungeons have cobwebs within them. So you can set your dungeons to reset every 24 hours, every 1 week, every few hours. That is completely up to the operator. You can also delete your dungeons. All these dungeons have protection on by default, so no players can go in, not even the operator, and break the blocks of the dungeons. The only objects you're able to break are the cobwebs. You're able to disable the spawners with torches. You are able to place torches throughout the dungeon, and on the reset, those torches completely vanish. The cobwebs get reset. The dungeon essentially gets reset. You are able to suspend the protection around these dungeons, make changes to your dungeons, and then re-enable your protection on the dungeon itself. So that is a nice little feature here, and there are a few other commands here. But let's go ahead and check out the plugin in action. So let's go ahead and jump into the game here. Now, we're currently standing in a not so bad area. So for example, I want to go ahead and take a look at the list of commands that Catacombs offers. So in order to do this, I should be able to type /cat. So there we go. Our commands are there on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead. I typed it in there twice. I didn't see that I had my F1 going on. So if you do Catacombs, we should see here that we can either do a scatter command. I'm not really wanting to scatter at a distance. I want to go ahead and plan a dungeon right below where I'm standing at. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and type /cat and plan. And we're going to go ahead and give our plan a name. So it's going to be dungeon 1. And our depth, we're going to go ahead and give it a depth of 100 and a width of 25. Now 50 blocks. Okay, so we'll see that dungeon 1 is good and ready to be built. We can see the area. So the first room, the top layer is going to be a 7 by 7 room. That's going to be our that top portion, the entrance to the dungeon. Then the next level will be 15 by 27, 17 by 30, 10 by 26, and the final area will be 22 by 17. So we can see dungeon 1 is ready to go. So now that it has been planned, we can go ahead and do cat build and call out the plan that we had made, which was dungeon 1. Okay, so all of a sudden it's going to go ahead and build our dungeon around us. So we're going to go ahead and let it build out this dungeon. Now, once it is built, you'll go ahead and get a notification on the bottom left-hand side that your dungeon has been complete. A couple other features here that you'll see that have not been added. Okay, there we go. We can see that the catacomb changes have been complete. The door's been added. The dungeon sign that's showing dungeon 1, this one has 4 levels. It's basically kind of letting you know how large this dungeon is. It's 4 levels long, and it has a little trap door here to the bottom. So we can see here that I am able to destroy the cobwebs within here. As an operator, I am not able to destroy the dungeon itself. So we can go through and actually destroy the cobwebs. If I make my way down, let's go ahead and make my way down in here. We'll go ahead and quickly just showcase the reset feature. I go into this dungeon right down here, break the cobwebs through here. I want to go ahead and give an example of what exactly happens during the reset. So we're going to go ahead and remove all these cobwebs. There's really no monsters here at the moment, so that first room was pretty nice and easy peasy. There's a spawner right there, so if we weren't in creative mode, we probably have quite a bit more spawning. But there's a few monsters right there and a few spawners. So one thing here with the spawners, if you hit them, you're not able to destroy them. To disable them, as it tells you on the bottom left-hand side, you can put some torches on opposite sides to disable the spawners. Now in this room, let's go ahead and light it up. This is the first room that we're able to go down into from the ladder. Now, if you want to reset your dungeons, what you want to do is cat time the dungeon 1, and I want to reset this dungeon every 30 seconds for this example. We're going to go ahead and showcase what happens when the dungeon resets. Okay, it gives you a notification that dungeon 1 resets in 30 seconds. Dungeon will reset now in 30 seconds. So here's our way up to the top portion of the hut. So it should kind of, oop, there's my sword. Oh no, that's my sword right there. Our dungeon is going to be resetting here in 10 seconds now. So I'm lighting this room up right here. And we'll see once it resets what exactly takes place. Okay, and boom. We reset back up to the top. We can see that our reset timer has once again started. I'm going to go ahead and extend this out to 2 hours so we can kind of see what happens. We can see that the cobwebs within here have been reset. As we make our way back downstairs into the dungeon, you can see that it's nice and dark down there again. All the torches have been removed. The cobwebs have been reinstated back into the dungeon. You know, all the loot that had been here was replaced by new loot. So the dungeon has been reset, and that there's these dungeon, it shows you the dungeon name and the level that you're currently on. And again, we could do cat to list out our commands. If we want to adjust something within here, so for example, I didn't want to have players have the option of a brew station here or an anvil to, you know, repair their items, I could always go in here and do cat suspend dungeon 1, and that's going to suspend it, this whole dungeon, so it kind of lights everything up to going into spectator mode, because now everything is going to be lit up in the dungeon. You can see here where exactly the dungeon goes here. It goes even all the way down here. Well, at the very end of the dungeons, here's dungeon level 4. We can see that it's completely lit up right now. As we look through here, there should be an exit point. Where is the exit room? Right here. Okay, so as you reach the very end of the dungeon, you'll see here, end of the dungeon, press to leave. So we can go ahead and set ourselves up into creative mode. We click on the sign. Oh, it's in suspension mode right now, which means I can destroy blocks, which isn't good. But we can see that at the very end, there was some diamonds here. And we're able to go through and basically adjust this dungeon. We can break it, we can make adjustments here to it. And then once we've made our adjustments, we can go back in and re-enable. So cat enable dungeon 1. And boom, it's been re-enabled here. I definitely don't have the sign here anymore. So definitely don't want to go downstairs and destroy your dungeon. But that's basically it. So let's go ahead and go back into spectator mode so I can get out of here. And that is going to be plugin number 1. Okay, we've checked out plugin number 1. The second plugin to check out is called Oh the Dungeons You'll Go. Now this one was discontinued, but it does work up until Minecraft versions 1.17. So this one is pretty interesting. This one has a number of dungeon themes. This one has 70 dungeon themes. So if you're looking to add one plugin to your Minecraft server, this is probably the one you'd want to go with because it does automatically generate dungeons throughout your Minecraft world. You can also have them enabled and moved into sort of like a multiverse. I don't believe you need multiverse to have the teleportation to the other worlds, but we'll go ahead and check that out here in just a second. You can see that there's 6 different dungeon types, so it kind of gives you a picture here of all the different dungeon types. So you have your roguelike dungeons up above. You have your Aether, which are dungeons up in the sky, it seems, or maybe in the eyes. Your Ant-Man dungeon. So this is more like the Catacombs right here. So if you're looking, again, just for one plugin that automatically generates dungeons out in your open world automatically, this would be one. Again, but this doesn't add the protection feature that Cat enables. You have the Battle Tower dungeon. You have Doom-like dungeons. The Draylar dungeon style. Lich Tower. Smoofy dungeons. This one's really interesting. These are gigantic dungeons underneath the ground. So it does generate a number of different dungeon types. So let's go ahead and jump into the world once again. And we'll take a look at some of the commands here. So jumping over into the Minecraft world, we can type in Oh the Dungeons, and it'll bring up the main menu for this plugin. You can go ahead and create a plotted world generated on a dungeon. So if I go into here, let's go ahead and just create a dungeon. We'll go ahead and create about 2. Yeah, we'll create 2. And if we want to go ahead and generate these, click on create the dungeon plot. Okay, so we're only creating 2. So this should generate pretty easy. This may drop your TPS. So we can see here at our TPS right now. I'm the only one on this server at the moment. I'm hosting it from my own computer. So my TPS isn't going to be dropping, but you can see here that we only generated 2 dungeons. We were notified that both 1 and 2 are complete now. So what we can do here is, yeah, we can see that it is now finished to generate dungeon plot world, and we can't access the plot world through here. And then once a month, you can go in and remove them if there's no protection on them and players are destroying them. So in order to teleport to the dungeons, let's go ahead and do all the dungeons. And we want to go ahead and teleport to these dungeons. So we go ODTP, ODT_TP. And here we can see that our 2 dungeon plots, we have dungeon plot 1 and dungeon plot 0. I'm going to go ahead and click on 0, and it's going to go ahead and take me to this dungeon plot. So this one right here, it looks like one of the catacomb style ones. They have a little ladder that goes down. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and set myself into game mode spectator. We can see how this one looks underneath the ground. You can see that it is just an open world here. This is just a plot that was specifically generated for this dungeon. And you can see how massive this dungeon is right here. Now, if you had these automatically generated in your Minecraft world, that could be added a nice little feature to players, or you can just have them plotted out separate from your survival world itself. So that is definitely pretty interesting right here. We can go ahead and teleport to the other one here, plot 1. We can say this is a little temple right here. So if we go underneath the ground, once again, this is really nice and interesting. Look at the size of this dungeon. It is massive. Now on top of the ground, you can see the temple up there, but as you're heading down into the dungeon itself, this is just huge. And you can see that there's spawners located all around this. Now on this one, there is no protection for the dungeon itself. So if you go into game mode and go into creative, and you drop down into here, I'm actually able to destroy everything. So the other one, you can go ahead and suspend the protection of the dungeon. So if you want players to be able to go through as however they want, destroy blocks, you can go ahead and put the dungeons into the worlds and give your players the ability to do that. Here, you can also destroy everything. So everything is able to be destroyed within these plots. And if you want to teleport back over to the world, you can go ahead and do the dungeons, OTD TP. You can select back on to the bed, and this takes you back over to the open world. Now, if we want to go ahead and delete the plots, we can go ahead back into our plot world. We can go ahead and remove them, and all the dungeon plots have been removed. So ODTTP, nothing will pop up over here because those worlds, that world with all the plots of dungeons, has been removed. So you can actually set it up so that that world is refreshed, or you can refresh a whole set of 5 dungeons every week that players are able to run through. They can come and go as they want. They can leave, come back, destroy their way through those dungeons. You can destroy the plots, rebuild them on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. It just depends on your server crowd. Now, if you want to go ahead and generate dungeons out in the open world itself, you can do that here by clicking on the first option here, which is called Dungeons in the Normal World. You can go ahead and enable the dungeons out in the world here. So we have the world where everything is currently disabled, the nether, everything's disabled, and the end, everything's disabled. We want to go ahead and enable dungeons in the open world. So we click within here, and we just have to go through and set them to naturally spawn. So right now that's set to disable. It was set to disabled. By checking it, I go ahead and set it to enabled. We can go through these options here. And do we want a random theme? Yes, I want it to be randomly themed here. And ignore the biome, or you can just set it to not ignore the biome. It'll be specifically themed to the biome itself. We can go ahead and go back. And I want to go through and enable all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and enable each one of these dungeons and make sure that they're enabled here on the open world. And let's see here. We have that one enabled right there. The towers, enable that one. Ant-Man's enabled. That one is enabled. Lich Tower, enable. And we have Dungeon Spawn, World Spawn Manager. So we can actually spawn. How often do we want these to spawn in? So we can left click to increase the spawn rate of them. And we can actually move these to, say, a 10. So they should be popping in pretty often here. So we'll go ahead and put these up. As we move each of them up to 10, it'll be 10 out of, oh, there's 9. So 10 times 9 is 90. And here we can kind of go ahead and adjust this down to decrease how many blocks between dungeons that we want to spawn. And now we are good to go. So now if we fly into the air, we've enabled the dungeons. We really haven't traveled very far in this server. So if I make my way, whoops, I went ahead and double tapped that spacebar. If we make our way through our world, we should hopefully run across a dungeon that is automatically generated here. It should generate one. I should actually decrease the threshold there for the dungeon. I just felt a little bit of lag there, so I'm sure that there was something generated here. See if I can kind of look around and see if there's something that kind of stands out. Let's see here. See if I can adjust my settings here to, let's go 30 chunks. And we should be able to see here if there's any sort of dungeons near here. So we're out 30 chunks here. We're able to see 30 chunks out. And all we're doing right now is looking for dungeons. Okay, there's a village. That is not a dungeon. Oh, there's a dungeon right there. So there's a tower. This was generated into the open world. So as we were flying over that way, I did get a little bit of lag back there. So I knew that there was one generated in here. So that's a pretty cool looking one right here. If we make our way once again, we should see that another dungeon is going to be generated, hopefully here shortly. So I felt a little bit of a little kick right there. Oh, yep, there's another one right there that was generated. So this is a battle tower that goes underneath the ground. But again, just like the ones on the plots, these are massive dungeons both above and under the ground. There's another tower right there. So if you are seeing yourself get too many towers, again, you can just go into the settings here, into your normal world, go into your world and decrease the battle tower. So here, dungeon spawn. So on the battle tower, it looks like I didn't save it there. Oh, I didn't save. That's why it's not spawning. So how do I... See if it saved it there. Okay, world config saved. I may have hit escape last time, and that's not the way you want to do it. So go back into here. Everything's enabled. Click on the dungeon spawn. 15 is the minimum it can go to. Okay, we're going to go ahead and bump up the roguelike one up to 10. You do have to back out of here to save your config. That was my issue last time. So in here, it didn't save my render, how often these pop up. You can see here that, oh, it did save. Okay, so I did save it at 15 blocks away. Right there I hit escape because I didn't make any changes. But if you do make changes, you definitely want to make sure that you hit the correct backspace. So boom, there is one that was generated as we were running by. There's another one that was generated right there. That may be the same one. I felt another little spike right there. So something was probably, yep, there's a generation. That's a pillager tower. So as we're flying through here, we should see quite a few dungeons begin to get generated down below us. Let's go ahead and set time, set day. Oh, there's one right there, I believe. Yep, there's a little roguelike dungeon right there. There's another one right there. So yeah, these dungeons are kind of popping up everywhere. You probably don't want to set them to a 15 block. You probably want to do at least 30. If you have the threshold set at 30, we can see that there's a dungeon over there. There's a dungeon right here. There's a dungeon right there. That's 3 dungeons on top of each other. If we go into spectator mode, if we go game mode, spectator, and head underground, we'll probably see that a lot of these dungeons, we can see that this dungeon right here, they kind of blend together. See how this dungeon over here, and there's a roguelike dungeon, I think. Oh no, it looks like it's all one piece. The submerged area right here and that entrance looks like that's one piece, but this piece over here, this is one of the roguelike ones that you make your way down. And we can see that this bottom portion right here almost goes into this other dungeon. Not quite, but almost there. So that is the dungeons you'll go in. Both of these plugins do work on 1.17.1. Okay, so we've went ahead and checked out these 2 plugins to add dungeons to your Minecraft 1.17.1 worlds. Both of these do work, so if you don't want to be adding every dungeon that is available out there, again, inside of the dungeons, you are able to adjust which dungeons you want spawning. So if you don't want specific ones, you can disable them. If you want more of a certain one, that can also be adjusted here just by changing the percentages here. Really quick and easy. Make sure that you hit back to save your configuration. But as far as if you want it pretty easy peasy, you can stick with Catacombs. If you want a little bit more options, then the dungeons you'll go is probably the better choice. So I did want to give you these options for your 1.17.1 Minecraft servers. Let me know down in the comment section below if there's any other dungeon plugins or plugins for your survival servers that you use. And thank you all for tuning in. If you guys did enjoy this video, again, go down below, hit the red button to subscribe, make it gray, hit the bell to be notified every time I release a brand new video, and of course give this video a thumbs up, make it blue like the water behind me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.